How to add structured data markup to your website. In this video session, I'm going to share with you insights for adding structured data for Google's rich results. Since each and every website is different, and since you may be using different content management system than me or someone else, the best way for me to teach you how to add structured data is by telling you to visit the help section of Google Search Central and look at the data types that Google spots to gain some ideas in terms of what's required, as in the fields that's required, or optional schema markup fields. Let's imagine an article markup. Surely you can use JSON-LD example, or you can hard code your website theme for news article or blog posting and so on. So now I can't tell you how to code this, although I'll share some WordPress examples. Let's imagine you're using Shopify. You can edit Shopify themes. But some content management systems, such as Wix, it doesn't allow you to edit the theme. If that's the case, you may explore JSON-LD markup to add to different parts of your website. In the previous video session, we've touched base with structured data markup helper that may be ideal for you to find out the parts of your website for you to add schema markup code to, whether it's articles or products for e-commerce sites, or if you're a local business, this may be helpful to understand how to code your website. Let's take a look at breadcrumb example. Since links are very important and Google follows links, using the samples here, you may say, okay, JSON-LD example may be ideal for my navigational structure. Then you can grab the sample code, go to the tester, place the code, and say, okay, let me run the test to see is everything valid. In this example, everything seems valid. There is no optional fields or errors. Then say, okay, you know what? Can I place that for my menu structure? And usually, if you can edit your website theme, that's where you want to go and start adding the code. So there is no easy way for me to show you how to add structured data markup, but rather tell you, first, visit the help section and find out what's required. You can search the page for required, say, okay, what items, as in what properties are required? In this example, item list element for breadcrumbs is required. But then, for list item, these are required. At this moment, don't just settle with what Google supports for schema markup, but rather go to schemamarkup.org and say, okay, for breadcrumb list, let's look at schemas. You have the full list here. Then we can say, okay, how about breadcrumb? Let me search for breadcrumb to say, okay, can I add different information to breadcrumb? As you can see, we can extend breadcrumb by using properties from thing. So then, let's go out of that. What I'm trying to tell you is when you look at these examples and look at the type of website that you have, whether it's a local business, whether it's an e-commerce, then you can say, okay, I have menu links. Most websites do. then you can use these examples, perhaps code your website theme where the links are, and say, okay, let's say a product. Most content management systems may actually generate this automatically. So you need to double check that, look at the required fields, then also search schema markup, schema.org for products, and say, what else can I do? As you can perhaps add different things depending on type of product that you're showcasing on your website. Then say, okay, you know what? How about frequently asked questions or question and answers? Looking at the examples and required fields, you may say, can I use that? Or can I grab the examples, copy it, and perhaps add a new page by just changing the examples to suit your needs. Okay, so that is how you start exploring schema markup that Google Rich Results support. Then, when you mark up your website according to your specific website, before you publish your content, as in before you publish your structured data, test the code here. And then if it's valid, then update your website. Now I'll show you some basic examples, whether you're using WordPress or Shopify. If you have access to the theme, that's where you want to start marking up your website. Why? Because Google supports different data types. And in Search Console, you'll have enhancement reports. In this example, this basic rank your website, which is a blog, showcases courses, discussion forum, frequently asked questions, review snippet, video markup, all coming from like structured data markup that Google supports, shows up in Search Console. What does that mean? That means Google can better understand the content on my website. Different parts of my website or your website may contain different schema markup types. Let's imagine e-commerce sites, you'll have product URLs. E-commerce sites may have articles. Well, then you can mark up the article. And the best way to do that is by editing the theme of your content management system and your website. Before I close up, let me show you how you meant to actually add schema markup to a website. It doesn't matter what type of website. All websites use themes or HTML code. You start from HTML. That's where you mark up your website. The domain is your website. Then you have a web page. So a typical web page should be marked up as a web page. Then web pages can have different type of web page. About page, contact page, profile page, search results page. About page, contact page is very important, especially for local businesses. So then you mark up the HTML by saying your contact page, the entire page is a contact page. And then you can add additional schema markup related content, whether using meta tags, item property as a description of it, title, you can use name, that's for local businesses, can have additional information such as local features, business details including logo can be edited to schema markup. So then Google can better understand your local business. That's why it's only in your best interest to look at the Search Central Help section to gain ideas and extend your website schema markup. Knowing the highest data type is the thing. As in, you search here, I say, okay, what is the thing? If you know object-oriented programming, then this will actually be very easy for you. Because schema markup, it's all about encapsulation. The highest class then is the thing. So then, what else can we do? I'll show you some examples for WordPress. But as I've said, depending on the content management system that you're using, you can create a lot of different schema markup types. Let's say a blog posting, you can do something like this. Let's search for this and say, okay, you know what? This URL, test it to see what's there. Because I'll show you, because it'll make more sense as to how you can extend any type of website. Surely, to be able to do this, you will need advanced skills in terms of HTML, PHP perhaps, because most content management systems are built on PHP. So here we've got 7 valid items. That means when Google analyzes this URL, it's going to see the structured data. And if there are any problems here, we need to fix it. Then we have article, view the tested page. We can do that, look at the screenshot and gain more insights. So then we can say, okay, what's the type? It's a blog post. It's in blog posting. That's coming from feature guides article. So we can mark up article if we want, or blog posting. Now most SEO plugins or schema markup plugins, you should not be using them if you want to really mark up your website. Because plugins are always limited in terms of the capability of adding structured data markup. Here I've got social media posting, which is part of that blog post, because I'm using video markup on that landing page as well, as you can see. That is how you extend, and extend. Rankia is an organization. I can provide more details about the organization, or a local business. We have video markup, which is very important for my setup, because I'm embedding YouTube videos. All of this is shown in enhancement reports that are part of structured data that Google spots. So how you add it, as I've said, the best way is to look at the help section to understand what's required, at minimum, the required properties, and then look at the schemas from schema.org and say, okay, can I use different properties? You know, whether Google spots it or not, if you can, then you definitely want to mark up your website using different properties from schema.org, because Google is not the only search engine. Then the best way, as I've said, is to edit your website theme. You can surely look at some examples depending on the type of website that you have. One way or another, structured data markup for Google's rich results will only enhance your website's performance in Google search. And in 2025, with all the changes such as AI overviews and the rich results, why not use structured data for your website? If you've got any questions or comments, use the video commenting section. I thank you for learning with Rankia, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.